The town's market was always full of noise. People shouted, bargained, and laughed. But in the middle of all that noise, there was one quiet corner. That corner belonged to Maya. She sat behind a small wooden table covered with flowers, her face hidden behind a big old bag with holes cut out for her eyes. People walked past her every day. They saw the bag, they whispered, and then they turned away. Maya had worked in that market for years. She came early in the morning when the sun was still soft, set up her flowers, and left before night. No one knew where she lived. No one asked her how she felt. They only knew her as the girl with the bag. When she was a child, she used to smile. She loved flowers. She used to believe in beauty and kindness. But life was not kind to her. Years ago, she was mocked and judged for her appearance by people she trusted. It hurt so deeply that she decided to hide from everyone. She believed that if no one saw her face, no one would hurt her again. But as time passed, that belief grew into a wall around her heart. Her only comfort was the smell of fresh flowers. She made small bouquets every morning, wrapping them carefully with paper and tying them with string. She sold them at low prices, not because she didn't value them, but because she was afraid no one would buy from her otherwise. The market people had their own stories about Maya. Some said she was strange. Some said she was hiding something scary. Others simply ignored her. Children sometimes stared at her curious, but their parents quickly pulled them away. To most people, she was invisible. Then one warm afternoon, a man named Daniel came to the market. He was not from the town. He had kind eyes, a soft voice, and a habit of noticing small things others ignored. He walked past fruit stalls, bakeries, and old book tables. Then his eyes stopped on Maya. While others turned away, Daniel paused. He saw the way she carefully arranged her flowers even when no one was looking. He noticed the way she sat so still, as if the world around her didn't belong to her. He walked closer. She looked up slightly, her eyes peeking through the bag. For a moment she froze. No one had ever come close to her stall like this before. "How much for these?" Daniel asked gently, pointing at the basket full of small white flowers. His voice wasn't loud or pushy. It carried a kind warmth. Maya whispered the price so softly that he had to lean a little to hear her. He didn't bargain. He didn't question. He said, "I'll take them all." Her hands trembled slightly. She thought she had heard wrong. "All?" she asked in a low voice. "Yes," he smiled, "all." People nearby stopped for a moment and watched. No one had ever bought all her flowers before. They whispered among themselves. Some raised their eyebrows. Others shook their heads confused. Maya slowly began to pack the flowers. She didn't know why he was doing this. No one had ever treated her this way. Daniel didn't look at her with pity. He didn't act like she was strange. He just stood there patiently as if she mattered. As she handed him the flowers, he noticed how carefully she avoided touching his hand. She kept her head down as if trying to disappear. "You have beautiful flowers," he said softly. "Do you grow them yourself?" She nodded, surprised that he was talking to her like a normal person. "I like flowers," Daniel said. "They remind me that quiet things can still make the world brighter." Maya looked at him for a second. No one had ever said something like that to her. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. Then she whispered something that even surprised herself. "No one will ever love me." She didn't mean to say it out loud. It was something she had carried inside for so long, a quiet truth she believed about herself. But it slipped out like a breath she had been holding for too long. Daniel's smile didn't fade. "You don't know that," he said gently. "Sometimes the world is wrong about people." Her heart pounded. She wasn't used to kindness. People had ignored her for so long that even gentle words felt like something new, something almost too bright to touch. The people around kept whispering. Some of them laughed quietly, not at Daniel, but at the idea of someone talking to the bag girl. But Daniel didn't notice them, or maybe he did and he didn't care. He looked at her again. "Can I see your face?" he asked, not forcing, just asking softly. She froze. No one had ever asked her that with kindness. People had tried to mock her or push her, but never like this. "You don't have to," he added quickly. "Only if you want to." Her hand shook. Her heart felt heavy, but something in his voice made her feel safe. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she touched the edge of the old bag. She could hear the people nearby holding their breath. Even the sellers who were busy a moment ago turned to watch. The market seemed to go silent. All that remained was the sound of wind moving through the stalls. Daniel nodded gently. It's okay, he said again. She lifted the bag just enough to let light touch her face. The crowd gasped softly. Daniel's eyes widened, but not in shock like the others. His look was gentle, like he saw something beautiful that had always been hidden. The bag slipped a little more as her hands shook, and a soft breeze pushed it back further. Her long, dark hair fell out from under it, shining in the afternoon light. The people around stared in silence. They had spent years ignoring her, judging her, whispering about her. None of them had expected this. Maya closed her eyes for a moment. She felt the sun on her skin, something she hadn't felt like this in years. It felt strange, warm, and real. Daniel didn't say anything cruel. He didn't step back. He didn't look at her the way others did. He simply smiled, the kind of smile that didn't demand anything. That single moment was enough to change everything inside her. She didn't know it yet, but something had shifted. A door that had been locked for years had opened a little. The people around didn't know what to say. Some whispered again. Others looked down, embarrassed for how they had treated her before. But Maya didn't hear them. All she felt was the wind on her face, Daniel's kind eyes, and the sound of her own heartbeat. Daniel carefully held the flowers she had packed for him. Then he looked at her one more time. "Thank you," he said softly. "I'm glad I stopped here." For the first time in a very long time, Maya didn't want to hide anymore. She gently let the bag slide down a little more. In that moment, the girl everyone ignored became the girl everyone noticed. And more importantly, she noticed herself too. The market went back to its usual noise after a while, but something in that corner had changed. It was the beginning of a story neither of them expected. A story built not on pity but on kindness, courage, and the beauty that had always been there, just waiting to be seen. The next morning, the market felt different. People still walked fast, carrying baskets and calling out prices, but in their minds, the image of the girl with the bag was fresh. Maya had never felt so nervous. She stood near her flower stall earlier than usual. For years she had hidden her face, but today she came without the bag. The wind touched her cheeks. She felt the warmth of the sun more clearly than ever before. Her hands trembled as she arranged the flowers. She kept telling herself, "I can do this. I can stand here." A few people passing by slowed down. Some stopped and stared. They recognized her from the day before. For years she had been a quiet shadow in the market. Now she was someone they actually looked at. Some people whispered. Some smiled shyly. Some were too surprised to speak. Maya's heart beat fast. She almost reached for the bag she had brought in case she changed her mind. But before she could, she saw Daniel walking toward her stall with a gentle smile on his face. Just seeing him made her shoulders relax a little. "Good morning," Daniel said as if nothing had changed. He didn't stare like the others. He looked at her eyes, not at her face, as if she was just a person, not a mystery. "Good morning," she whispered back. Her voice shook a little, but he didn't mind. He looked at the flowers on her table. "They look beautiful," he said softly. "And so do you." Her cheeks turned warm. She wasn't used to hearing kind words. She didn't know how to reply, so she just looked down and smiled a little. That small smile felt like a big step for her. People around watched them quietly. The same people who had ignored her for years now looked at her with wide eyes. Some of them even came closer. A woman holding a basket stepped forward and said, "I'd like to buy some flowers." Maya froze. She wasn't used to customers talking kindly to her, but she nodded quickly and handed the woman a small bunch. "Thank you," the woman said with a soft smile. One after another, people began to approach her stall. Some wanted flowers. Some were just curious to see the face they had ignored for so long. Maya didn't know where to look or how to act. But Daniel stayed near the stall. His presence felt like a quiet shield around her. While handing flowers to a little girl, Maya saw the child smile up at her. The girl said, "You're pretty," with the kind honesty only children have. Maya felt something melt inside her chest. For the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible. She felt real. Later that day, as the sun got brighter, she told Daniel why she had worn the bag. She told him how people had laughed at her when she was younger, how cruel words had made her believe she was not worthy of love. She told him about the day she decided to hide, thinking it was better to be unseen than to be hurt. Daniel didn't interrupt. He just listened. His eyes didn't show pity, only understanding. When she finished, she felt lighter, as if a weight she had carried for years had started to lift. "You were never the problem. he said softly. The world was just too blind to see you. Maya looked at him, unsure how to respond. She wasn't used to kindness lasting this long. She had always thought kind moments were quick and disappeared like smoke. But Daniel's kindness stayed. Days passed, and each day more people came to her stall. Some came to buy flowers. Some came to say sorry for ignoring her all those years. Some came just to smile. At first, Maya didn't know how to handle it. She felt overwhelmed. But Daniel told her to take one small step at a time. You've spent so many years hiding, he said one afternoon while helping her stack empty baskets. You don't have to shine all at once. Just let the world see you at your own pace, and she did. Every day she stood a little taller. Every day she looked more people in the eye. Every day her voice grew a little stronger. The woman who owned the bakery nearby started bringing her fresh bread in the morning. The fruit seller greeted her warmly. Even the people who once whispered about her now treated her with respect. Maya wasn't used to this, but it felt good to be part of the world again. One afternoon, as the sun painted the sky with gold, Daniel arrived holding a small wooden box. Maya looked at him curiously as he placed it on her table. Open it, he said with a smile. Inside the box was a simple mirror. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't looked at herself properly in years. She used to avoid mirrors because she didn't like what she saw, because cruel words from the past had made her believe she wasn't beautiful. Why did you bring this? She asked softly. So you can see what I see, Daniel replied. She hesitated. Her hands shook slightly as she picked up the mirror. Slowly, she lifted it. At first, she didn't look directly. She saw only the edges of her face. Then she took a deep breath and looked fully. The woman looking back at her wasn't the scared girl she thought she was. Her eyes were warm. Her hair shone softly in the light. Her face carried quiet strength. She saw beauty she had never allowed herself to see. Tears filled her eyes, but not out of sadness. It was a new feeling, a mix of surprise and relief. You're not just beautiful, Daniel said gently, standing beside her. You're brave. That word settled deep inside her heart. Brave. She had never thought of herself that way before. But she was. It took courage to show her face again. It took courage to stand in front of the world that had once broken her. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. Her flower stall became the busiest in the market. Not because people were curious anymore, but because they loved how she treated everyone. Maya greeted people with warmth, remembered their names, and tied flowers with extra care. She had always been kind. Now the world saw it too. One day, the same woman who had once ignored her came to buy flowers. She stood there awkwardly, holding a small purse. I used to walk past you every day, she said quietly. I'm sorry. Maya looked at her and simply smiled. It's okay, she said. We all see things late sometimes. Daniel stood nearby, proud but quiet. He never tried to take credit for anything. He just supported her. He had only given her a small push. She was the one who chose to step forward. As days turned to weeks and weeks into months, Maya stopped bringing the bag with her completely. It was no longer a part of her. The thing that once kept her hidden was now just a memory. People often said she looked beautiful, but what made her glow the most wasn't her face. It was the way she carried herself now. Her eyes no longer hid pain. They carried light. One evening, when the market was closing and the sky turned soft and pink, Daniel walked her home. They walked slowly, passing the stalls together. I still remember the first day you came, she said softly. I do too. Daniel smiled. You thought no one would love you. Maya nodded, then looked at him with a small, peaceful smile. I was wrong. She didn't just find someone who cared. She found herself again. That night, she placed the mirror on her small table near her flowers. She didn't hide it in a box. She didn't turn it away. She looked at it and smiled. Not because she needed someone to tell her she was beautiful, but because she finally believed it herself. The story of the girl with the bag became known in the town, not as a sad tale, but as a story of courage and kindness. People learned not to judge what they didn't understand, and Maya learned that the world can be harsh, but it can also be gentle when kindness meets courage. She never forgot the day Daniel bought her flowers. It wasn't about the flowers. It was about the way he saw her when no one else did. And even more than that, it was about the way she learned to see herself again. The market never felt the same after that. It was brighter, warmer. People smiled more, not just at her, but at each other. Sometimes one act of kindness can do that. It can change more than one life. Maya stood behind her stall every morning with flowers and a smile, no longer hiding from the world. The girl who once believed no one would love her had become a woman who knew her worth. And that, more than anything, was the most beautiful part of all.